Hello, welcome to the Calling and the Climb podcast. My name's Kent. I'm here with Phillip, who is a business owner for 26 years. It was IT, and he's in the process of selling it uh, in our last episode. And so we're digging into the detail on what it's like to sell a company when you've reached a certain size and reached a certain income level and revenue, and what that means and how that works. And so, Philip, we talked about the initial evaluation last episode, and now we've got more details to dig into as probably you stayed up many late nights trying to figure everything out.
Well, that is correct. Actually, I did. Yeah, we did talk about me kind of realizing I needed an exit strategy on the last episode, and that's what we talked about. And so once I decided, yes, I need an exit strategy, and I started planning what my exit was going to be. I had to consider what do I want to do with this business, this asset that is producing income year over year. And I think I'd mentioned previously that if there was somebody in my family I wanted to hand it down to, that was not the case. I am pretty much the only IT functional, I shouldn't say that, but it's true. The only IT functional person in my family,
I
and
get
my
it.
family
Yeah.
will dispute that, but it's true. And so I knew none of them wanted to run this business. And so another consideration is to take the company public. That was never in my calculus. I don't. That's outside of my understanding of how that works. So I wasn't even going to go there. So the thing that was left for me to decide is to sell my business, to sell my business. And so, yeah, that's an easy thing to say. I think I'm going to sell the business. But number one, I had to determine what is the business worth. And I'm going to tell you,
Sure.
Kent, I had no idea. I could tell you how much we build every year, how much revenue we had. I could divide it up by departments. I could tell you what our expenses were. I could tell you what our marketing and sales strategy budget was. I could tell you what our EBITDA was. I could tell you what our bottom line. I could tell you what I paid in taxes. But if somebody asked me, what can you sell your business for? I had no idea.
Okay,
So
why is that? Why is that an issue? Why is that? I know it's an issue, but it's what goes into that?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question because that's what I wanted to know. How if you've got widgets that you're selling, you go out and find out what's the going price for widgets, and that's how I set my price based on that. I didn't know of a marketplace where people are advertising. I just sold my IT business that does exactly what Philip does for X. Didn't exist, at least to my knowledge. So I began to do some research, and it opened up a whole new world to me that I really was unfamiliar with. And the reason I'm telling this is because I feel like I'm not the only entrepreneur that has faced this when it comes to the time for the exit strategy. And you're expert in running your business and making a profit and growing the business, but have no idea how to sell it. And that's where I was. And so I'm not ashamed to admit that. So I began to do some research and was introduced to terms like valuation. What is the valuation of the business? Uh, M&A. I didn't know what M&A stood for. It's mergers and acquisitions. And then there are advisors like M&A advisors that will come in and pitch your business and give you an idea of what the value is. I didn't know anything about this. There was some top line revenue. I kind of knew what top line revenue was, but EBITDA, what is EBITDA? I, I kind of knew what it was, but I didn't know how important that was in evaluating the value of my business on the marketplace from potential buyers. So also introduced to a term called a multiple. What I know what multiple means, but what's that mean in terms of the value of my business? Well, in some cases, and it varies by industry, but in some cases, your business is set, the value of your business may be set in terms of a multiple of, say, like EBITDA. And you can think of EBITDA as it's earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation. So it's kind of a gauge of the profitability of your business as compared to other businesses in your industry. And so in some cases, your business might be valued on the market by some multiple. Let's say it's 5 times or 7 times or 3 times, whatever your EBITDA is. Okay, well, I can figure my EBITDA. And if I kind of know what the multiple is for my industry, then I can kind of back into a number. So that was some of the things that I was looking at. Another thing I looked at, what am I making? What am I had set myself up on a salary. And by that time, I'm beginning to kind of back away from day to day operations. So, would it be possible to add my salary back in to the profit since once they sell the business, I'm no longer drawing a paycheck? Is that something that is possible? Question, good question. So, these were the things that I began to consider when trying to find out number one, am I going to be able to sell the business? In other words, can I get enough from this business that I think it will pay me to sell it? And keep in mind, I'd had the business for 26 years. Okay, I started when I was 30, 26 years, that's 56. I could probably start a few other businesses, but probably not businesses like this. So I'm going to need to get a good amount of money for this if I'm going to sell it. But I didn't know. I didn't know how much I could expect. So those are the things that I began to consider and talk to people, uh, used online resources. There's all sorts of things that you can do. And what I would particularly advise people to do is pay attention to your industry, what the retail store down the street or what um, the farming operation or electronics business or whatever. I don't care how they value their business. What I care about is how people that do IT consulting, and more specifically for a particular industry, a niche industry like I did, the legal industry. That was important. So as we did this, I also realized that there were some things that we needed to do to get ready to go to the market. Once I decided, okay, we're going to pursue a sale of the business, it was not immediate. There were some things that we had to shore up. And I knew that based on just reading, based on talking to some people that had had experience in this area. And so there was some cleanup that I needed to do to my business in order to take it to market. And I need to do this long before I took it to market. So that's why there was a bit of time between when I decided, okay, this is my exit strategy, and when I executed that strategy.
All right, so I mean that makes sense to me. I've never sold a business though, so what does that mean exactly when you say clean up?
Yep. So one thing, I'll just give you some examples. I needed to clean up our org chart and to make sure that it properly represented all of the lines of authority and who is responsible for what, including very well defined job descriptions for all the people on my staff. From the very top, the C suite, all the way down to level one techs and so on. And it was important that we get this down. And we had done some of that, but we weren't as thorough as we needed to be. When you're going to sell this business, it's kind of like selling a house. Like if you get ready to sell your house, Kent, you're going to go through that one little thing that's kind of been the gutter that's kind of been hanging. It's not a disaster, but it's kind of been
Right.
hanging. You go fix that. So these are the things that we were going to kind of shore up and fix about the business. Clean up our org chart, get our job descriptions on point, exactly what everybody's doing. I had to make sure that our pay scale, what we were paying our employees, was sort of industry standard for our region. And
Okay.
there's resources out there that you can say, okay, at this particular position in this particular geographic location, what is the going rate for an HR director, or what is the going rate for a level one tech or a level two tech or whatever it is. And obviously, this is not something that happened overnight, but if some of our pay scales were out of kilter with what industry standards were, we had to correct that, and we did. Um, Another thing that I had to do was to just make sure that we cut all the fat. Obviously, as we grew and we were in a time of rapid growth, And I think we've talked about this. We had a new
Yes.
business coming in the door, and we were just growing by leaps and bounds. And we were adding people. Just I needed bodies to place in different places. And any business does this. You begin to get a little fat around the edges because you're just plugging in and buying people and putting where they or buying resources and put them where you need them. And so we needed to step back and say, okay, where is the fat in this company? I want to
Sure.
eliminate the fat because we want to maximize the bottom line that we present when we put this thing on the market. We don't want hardly any fat in there at all. Those were
Sure.
some of the things that we did. Another thing that I knew that I had to do was to work myself out of a job because at the end of the day, when I sold the business, I intended to quit doing what I was doing.
Right.
And in talking to people, a lot of people advised me, they said, you are going to be offered an earnout. So, what is an earnout? They said, well, they'll buy your business and they'll give you some money up front when they close and they take over, but they're going to want you to stay on because you're the face of that business 26 years. A lot of those
Right.
clients are clients that you brought on board, and they're going to want to make sure those clients stick. So, they're going to want you to stick around to keep keep that
Transition.
connectivity.
Yes.
and
Identity.
and
Yes.
a part of your compensation or the purchase price of the business is going to be contingent on if you stick around and you keep those clients, you retain those clients. And
Got it.
Kent, I said, I don't want to do that. I was done.
Okay.
I don't want to stay around for 1 year. I don't want to stay around for 2 years. I don't. I want to be out. And so I made the decision that what I've got to do by the time we go to market, I've got to be irrelevant to this business. Now that sounds not good, right? I was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
relevant because I funded it for crying out loud at this point in time,
Yes. Yes.
and I owned it. But what I
Right.
meant, I had to step away from day to day operation. So I did not become the face of the business for our clients. And that was a very conscious effort on my part. And I pushed other people into those roles that were ready for it, younger people, and the some of these people weren't going to stay with the business, and the people that I put in key leadership roles knew my plan. Very few, but
Okay.
very few of them, but they knew my plan, and they knew that they were going to be the ones to take it to the next level. And so I had to begin to remove myself. Um, Documentation overload was another thing that I discovered, and it's the bane of my existence. But everything has to be documented: policies, procedures, operations, and so many things. Particularly for tech people, it's just in our heads. This is how we do this. No, we got to write that down.
Right.
It's got to be documented because the acquiring company doesn't want to come in and, Fred, the IT guru sitting here, he's a genius at figuring any situation that comes, he figures it out. But Fred turns in his 2 week notice the day they buy him out. They buy the company,
Right.
and so that you want all of Fred's knowledge down in some sort of a document. So we had to go through extensive documentation, HR manual. We had to get it vetted by an attorney, budgets, professionally prepared financial statements. Let's see what else. Compensation history, sales and marketing pipeline, you name it. Everything and anything that could be documented, we had to document it, including shoring up our organizational documents, our operating agreement. I was at that point in time, I was on an operating agreement that was about 20 years old. It was completely outdated considering where we were at that time. So I went back to the attorney and told, here are some of the new things that I want to put into our operating agreement as
Right.
far as what's going to happen when we sell. And I told the attorney at the time, we are working not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, but we are working toward an exit event. I want to shore up this operating agreement. So all that had to be done, and that it took time. It took time, but that was very important.
Are we
Uh,
looking at months? Are we looking at months? Are we looking at years? Are we looking at
more like
weeks? What
years,
do
more like
we?
years for us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was
Okay.
more like years. Yeah, because we're doing
So
all
you're
the
doing it in stages.
we're doing it in stages, but we're also doing it while also doing our regular job, which is getting new
Of course.
clients, servicing clients, and making money. So you don't bring a whole team
Right.
in just to do the due diligence. Unfortunately,
Right.
your own people have to do that. So another thing that we had to do was to reinforce continuity. And what I mean by that, anybody that's going to look at potentially buying the business, number one, they want to make sure it's going to continue on the in the same manner after it's sold and after I'm out of the picture. So that's number
Okay.
one. Number two, they've got to have a good feeling that the profitability and the business that is already on the books is going to continue. So by
Okay. Of
default,
course.
yeah, by default over the years, I just had annual contracts with clients. Every year an auto renew, no big deal. Now we're gonna service you this year. Here's the amount, blah blah blah, and every year
Right.
we
Right.
went to 3-year contracts. Why? Ties them up for longer. Number two,
Right.
it 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 reinforces continuity for someone that is going to acquire our business. Oh, you have all these clients on 3-year contracts, and they were staged. Of course, not all clients start at the same time. So we have,
Right. Right. Right.
we have X number of contracts coming up for renewal this year, X number next year, X number the third year, and so constantly doing that renewal. Of course, with every renewal, there's a chance for added services, increased revenue, and all that. So that was one thing we had to do is go to multi-year client contracts. We had to make sure that we could generate renewable, repeatable monthly revenue. And I say
Okay.
that, I'll give you an example in just a minute, but our business had two types of revenue. We had just regular revenue that happened every month because it's just our regular service. And then we had something called project revenue that was just one-offs. And it was pretty regular. We'd have, projects coming in, but they were, litigation cases that we were working. And so you never knew what the size was or when it was going to come in or whatever. And it generated,
Ah.
considerable revenue, but it was not repeatable. And so I knew that we had to shore up that part of our business and get more repeatable, renewable revenue to make it more valuable to a purchaser. I had to make sure that we had a stable leadership team. And I had assembled, I think, an elite team, a really good team until and I'd mentioned before, I brought in somebody else to be the CEO from outside, and that did not work. But the core leadership underneath stayed, and that's what held us through that crisis and got us onto the sale. And I had to make sure that everyone was on the same page. Everyone has different areas of responsibility and different personalities and so on. But and that was primarily my job, is to make sure that we kept our eyes on the prize of growing this business. Now, I didn't share with the entire team, we're aiming for a sale here, but we wanted to maximize profitability. We wanted to increase revenue. We wanted to increase profit year over year over year. And to do that, we had to concentrate on these things to become a more lean and a more profitable company. And I needed everybody on board with that mandate. The very biggest thing that I had to consider for my business and was the hardest thing to do, Kent, was to convert, as I've alluded to previously, non-repeatable revenue into repeatable revenue.
Yeah.
And it's a little hairy to talk about in terms of my business because my business was so unique in some of the things that we did, and people may not fully grasp the differences in the different types of services we offered. So I'm going to give you an example, a very simplistic example of where we were at at this point in time before we go to market. And I'm going to use an example of a mom and pop. We'll call him Mom and Pop Hampton. Mom and Pop
Okay.
Hampton own an apple orchard, okay?
Okay.
And they work it and they provide apples to grocery stores. As a matter of fact, Pop works very, very hard, and he has got 50 small grocery stores that he delivers apples to every month. And as a matter of fact, you can pretty much count on it. Pop makes about $100 profit per store every month on his apples. So you that's what, $5,000 a month. So Pop is bringing in about $60,000 a year, and is that repeatable? Yes. Is it renewable? Yeah. He's had these grocery stores for years, 50. And Pop would like to do more, but Pop is working. I mean, it's taken all his time to just service these 50 stores. There's other stores out there, but he doesn't have the time or the money to hire people to go and sign up more stores. But that would make it even more profitable if he could do that.
Yeah.
Now, in addition, Mom Hampton, now she does her part too. She takes the apples from the orchard and she has this secret special recipe for apple pies. It's just nobody can make them like Mom Hampton. And
Mm-hmm.
so she's not in as many stores. Not everybody wants the pies in these grocery stores, but some of them in their bakery, they say, you know what, Mom Hampton, about 10 of those 50 stores says, we'll do your pie package. And she has a pie package. And you know what? Because those are so super special and she knows how to do it, she gets $200 profit per package, pie package. And she's in 10 stores. So what is she getting? She's getting about $2,000 a month times 12
Yep.
months, 24,000. So Pop's
Yeah.
bringing in 60,000 in profit. Mom's bringing in 24,000. So together they're pulling down about 84,000 a year. And they're working
Okay.
hard every day and that's making a good living. But Pop's like, I really want to grow this business. I I think I think we can hit more. Or maybe I can just sell the business to somebody bigger and they can. And Mom goes, well, Pop, how much do you want for it? He goes, well, I'm going to need at least $1.5 million. We need that at
Okay.
least. So he goes to somebody and says, I'm making 84,000 a year off this business. And they said, well, we'll give you 10 times revenue or 10 times profit, multiple. We'll give you
Sure.
10 times. So what is that? 840,000. Pop goes,
Yeah.
I can't do that. Can't sell it. I have to
Right.
grow it. So Pop goes back to Mom and says, we got to keep working. She goes, well, hold on. Guess what? I just got a call from a commissioner at the state, and they are having a centennial celebration for our state in every county in the state. And they want to buy, they're going to set up these fairs, these county fairs and everything. They want me to supply the pies for all their events. As a matter of fact, it's going to be about 30 additional pie packages per month, in addition to the 10 that I'm
Wow.
doing in the grocery stores for this
Yeah.
year for our state centennial. I told you it's a stupid example, but go with me here.
You're doing great. You're doing
So
great.
now Mom is selling 40 pie packages at $200 a profit per package. So what is she making in profit? $8,000 a month in profit. She is pulling down more than Pop. She is now doing $96,000 a year in her pie business. Now, Mom is working like she's got the grandkids in the kitchen. She's just pulling
Yeah.
resources from everywhere, but she is blowing and going. And Pop is like, whoa, Mom, guess what? That guy said he would give me 10 times our profit. You're making you're making 96,000. I am making 60,000. So together we're making 156. Guess what? 10 times 156,000 is 1.5. Let's go to market.
Yeah.
So he talks to the big apple orchard gurus, the mass apple orchard, and they go, let me look at your revenue. I don't know about that. Mom's got $96,000 in revenue, but a lot of that, in fact, the majority of it is a one-time event because it's the centennial. You only do that once every 100 years. So you know what
Right.
I'm going to give you for that part of the business? Zero. Because after I buy it,
Mm.
that's going away.
Right.
I'll give you
Right.
840,000 for your business. And Pop goes,
Still.
that's what you offered before I added all this revenue. That is where Logic Force was, my
Got
business.
it. Got
My
it.
revenue, and it's a very simplistic example, but my revenue
Right.
had grown huge. But a lot of that growth was due to a one time event, a big project,
Yes.
or a couple big projects. And they were multi year projects, but they had a beginning date and they had a certain end date. And I found out, I was thinking, man, I got this big revenue number. I've even got a big EBITDA number. Man, I can get bukus for my business. And then I started talking to people like, they're not going to value that. They're going to completely discount that big high package
Mm.
number.
That's right. Congratulations on winning it. It has no value to your sale.
Exactly. And so I sat down
Mm.
and I was all forlorn. And I'm like, what am I going to do?
Right.
I know what I'm going to do because if I can get I'm in 50 stores now. Pop says I'm in 50 stores now. If I can double the number of stores, I've got some extra revenue now. I've got over $72,000 a year in revenue from mom's extra business that I didn't have before. So I can go hire some people. I can get some sales and marketing people. I can get some additional workers on the farm. And I'm going to try, while I have this largesse of all of this extra income coming in from mom's business, I'm going to try to double the number of grocery stores that I'm in from 50 to 100. That's what he does. And he works hard.
Okay.
He continues
Yeah.
working his 50 and then he adds 50 more. So now what's Pop? Pop's got 100 stores. He's still making his $100 per store. So that's $10,000 a month. That's 1.2, 1.2
Yeah.
million in profit. And mom still, mom, she had her 10 stores. Well, she's added 10 more from those 50 new stores that he added. So now she has 20 stores. She's doing her regular pie package. She's at $200. So it's $4,000 a month times 12, 48,000. So together, Pop's 120,000, mom's 48,000. Together, they are now making 1.68. And guess
Right.
what? That's repeatable revenue. It's not one time. It's like every month. Give me another pie package. Every month, give me another apple package, and so
Yep.
on. So now Pop goes and says, hey, what will you buy my business for now? I go, we'll give you 1.6 million. That is what I had to do with Logic Force. It did not happen overnight. It took a lot of work, but we did it.
Yeah.
By the time we got to the sale, we had converted, we had used the extra money we got from those projects. And that was still ongoing. It was beginning to diminish by the time we got to the sale. But it didn't matter because we had built up the repeatable, renewable part of our business. That was so valuable for the sale of the business. So that's what we had to do. So that's why it took me a little time.
Yeah. Yeah. How long would you say it took, roughly, give or take, to once you realize, once the light bulb moment of, oh no, the oh no light bulb, not
Yeah.
the brilliant light bulb, but the
Yeah.
I need to redirect.
It really should have taken, it really should have taken 2 years.
Okay.
That was my
All right.
plan. It wound up taking almost 5.
Okay.
And a couple of things from leadership issues that I've alluded to, leadership at the top. I had to make a change that stunted us. And number 2, then we ran into COVID, and that delayed us a whole year. So, uh, absent those 2 things, I think we could have done it in 2 years. We had to really juice our sales and marketing process to make this happen, and I
Of
put a ton of
course.
resources into that. But I had those
Right.
resources because of the big project that came in.
The
It did increase the valuation of the business, but it gave me funding to increase the valuable parts of the business. And that's what I had to do.
That's a great way to put it.
So that's what we had to do to get ready to go to market. Now, once going to market, that's a whole nother story. We'll cover that another time. But that's what I had to do before we even went to market.
That's all. Yeah, nobody sees those behind the scenes
Yeah.
and all the details and sleepless nights. But that's a very great way to put it, and a lot of the perfect details for those of us that might be in that position someday or need to know this kind of information. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah. No problem. Go make your pie package, Kent.
I'm on
Make us
my
some
way
money so
now. Thank
we can buy more orchards.
Ma Hampton's pie
Mom had
package
that.
coming, sponsoring the calling and the climb.
There it is. Yes.
That's right. That's
All right.
right.
Take
Thanks
care.
for your time, Philip. We'll see you next time.